absolute, in 25 years of teaching, probably one of my top 5 favorite students of all time, who just, I just love him. I love him, I love him, love him. And he took the bar exam back in 2004. He claims, you'll hear, that I tormented him and tortured him. But then, amazingly enough, 10 years later, his son comes to us to take the same bar exam and has a great experience, I think. And they're both practicing, and they're practicing together, which is very cool. And I think this is just a wonderful story and wonderful people, and really 2 of my favorite people, but I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. I know I am. So I want to introduce to you Herman and Alex Tarnow down in Florida. And we are just so delighted to have you guys here. Let me start with you, Herman. You, gosh, you took the bar way back in 2004, but you were a licensed attorney in New York, right?
Oh yeah, I was 40-odd years out of the bar. It was definitely, shall we say, an incredible experience to do that.
Yeah, I bet. And now you're, what part of Florida are you in?
Right now we're in Naples, southwest coast. And I will assure you that my son and my other son, his brother, his twin, who also took the bar, was absolutely amazed that I passed.
we still don't know. We try to figure that out. We do.
I still wonder who was more surprised, me or the bar examiners.
Well, yeah, that was quite an experience taking you through the exam. You're obviously a very talented, very bright guy, but you do have your own unique brand of how you do things, and so that made it a lot of fun. And then, Alex, you come along 10 years later with your twin brother, and you're taking the bar exam, and wow, what's that got to be like with a dad that's already a member of a couple of bars and kind of telling you what's happening?
Definitely some decent amount of pressure. My brother had already taken the bar, and then my father told me about Jackson and Celebration, and I told him, yeah, let's try it out instead of going with some of the other ones. I thought it was when I just speaking to you, Jackson, you gave me a sense of comfort, and you really understood what my challenges were, my issues, my concerns, my strengths, my weaknesses, and we were able to. I felt like it was a team effort, and I didn't feel alone on an island, which was. And I, talking to a lot of other people, they just, other courses you don't talk to someone, and that to me is worth everything. Just to have someone to really explain what you should be doing, how your progress is, and also giving you truth talk, really telling you what the reality of the situation is, because when I'm in the middle of the exam and getting all stir crazy with all the tests and the writings, and it's good to have someone bring you down to earth and tell you if you're blowing things out of proportion, or maybe you're not blowing things out of proportion, and where you should be focusing your energy and how to deal with the anxiety of all of it. So that's what every time I talk about it, that's usually what I tell people about Celebration.
Oh, thanks. That's very nice. Herman, I remember when we talk about truth talk, you and I had some truth talks, didn't we?
Oh, we did. And you know what's interesting? I remember the Helsinki factor. I always felt like I was, falling in love with my captors, the concept of being a prisoner of war. And remember, when I took the exam, it was in the dinosaur era, and we had cassettes. Yeah. And I would be on, I was living in Connecticut at that point, and I literally would do nothing but listen to you on Metro North, going back and forth from New York to Westport. And it was really absolutely amazing. Just amazing, because I'd start laughing, and people would say to me, "What are you laughing for?" And I said, "Well, I've been out of school for 40 years, and I finally understand what that trust professor was trying to tell me."
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah, the difference in tech.
Jackson, I still remember it because I heard your voice so much as I would repeat some of the cassettes that when I took the damn exam, I could hear you in my head. And I really, and especially, you used to, I don't know if you do it now, but you used to have some predictable basis of what the examiners were going to do, you know. And playing the odds is always a good thing. So I remember the night before studying in the hotel, just the highlights of whatever I wanted to look at, and listening to what you said. Oh, when this comes up, remember this is it. And remember, if you write like a New York lawyer, you're not going to pass. And I remember those. So many years later, I still remember your admonitions and your very, very good judgment. And it was when Alex said that he was not happy looking at the other examinations, I said, gotta meet Jackson. And of course, you did, you know, he passed, and he passed at a time, but he may not say it, but I will. I'm the proud dad, which was the lowest rate of passage for the state of Florida ever. So, and he passed, and that day, I remember when, now it's all computerized, and I kind of remember because they have numbers, you know, we only got a letter, but they had numbers, and we were there in the house, and he gets a letter saying, Dad, I think I passed. I said, what does that mean? He says, well, take a look, and you know, it's all like squished, everything's squished down, and you have to put almost a little like a, something underneath it to make sure you haven't read the wrong line on the wrong number, because there's no name. I don't think we really relaxed until we got the letter a couple of days later. I mean, it was like, okay, we want to make sure this is right, you know. And so,
yeah.
But I still can tell.
Alex, what did that?
Oh my God, that was one of the most overwhelming feelings. Just to see the pass, and then, you know, you kept telling me, oh, everything will be okay. Don't worry, you know your stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to trust Jackson on this. And, you know, and then also when we saw the exams, I've written so many essays just like it, similar enough to it, so I already had a game plan in an FLA, you know. It's just, the entire time I was just thinking FLA and thinking, you know, deal with the facts, you know, apply the law and apply it. And then, and one of the big quotes, I actually still think about it. You, in one of your lectures, you talk about how, I believe you said you were talking in front of Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, and she mentioned, you know, talk about the facts. Tell me the facts of the case. And
yeah,
I really, even to this day, I always think of that line, just even when I'm doing writing now, just and that's what I did, and I think it really worked. It really, I showed the examiners that I understood the big picture, and I wasn't just memorizing, you know, giving outlines of law, and I was really applying it.
I'm curious, Jack.
Yeah, that's really cool.
You tell them that to write in a more conversational manner?
Yeah, I like a more conversational manner, and I like an approach that is, as Alex says, based on facts, making arguments, because I think it really lets the voice come through. You know, not everyone has your personality, Herman, but I think having a personality in your writing is important, and so I think it's really it's a big deal when you can do it. You know, it's interesting because as we're recording today, it's the day before the bar exam. Alex, does that bring back some memories for you?
I actually did realize that the other day. A few of my friends are taking it now. And
I'm shocked that you even have time to do this, Jackson.
Yeah, which is why I've got time, because you know, my students are all working. I'm done. So this is a great day for me to do it. But yeah. So that's got to be, you know, kind of an interesting throwback.
If you want to share a story, I'll never forget this. I remember in Tampa where they gave the exam. It's a big, gigantic hall, and you get fingerprinted and everything. I was the only one there with a collared shirt. Every one of those kids who had T-shirts on. Yeah, you know, you had Buffy and Muffies and everybody trying to hustle each other during the lunch hour, and you could see the women strutting and the men strutting. It all the same. I was sitting down next to this fellow, and I was writing, and he gets up with about 45 minutes to go. And he comes back at 1 o'clock or 2 or whatever that was, after the lunch break, and I said, boy, I can't believe that you were able to get it all done. I needed every minute. He says, well, if you don't know it, you might as well get up and leave.
Hopefully that wasn't one of ours.
Too. I mean, there was someone in front of me just like that. I mean, you can't waste a second looking at it, but like, you know, you see the guy get up in the middle, like halfway, you know, half hour in barely, and you're just like, okay, this guy just called it quits, I guess, but not my problem.
The other bit of advice I give to the folks who are listening, Hey, listen.
Yeah.
That night between the night between the exam, I was in a lovely hotel. I mean, life was good for me. My practice was really tremendous practice at that time in New York, and I felt such a pain in my head that I literally took ice into a towel and put it on my head. I never felt so exhausted or mentally challenged as I did that evening. But I did that, and then these other people, they're out by the pool playing, drinking. I couldn't believe it.
All I did was I would listen to Jackson, just listen to him. Jackson, your voice is a very calming voice, and it would give me, it would reassure myself. I would listen. I think I would listen to like Florida Wills, like one of the hour-long ones, enough where, yeah, the real snore, and the ones that you would say, I hate talking about this. It's not constitutional law. This isn't sexy stuff. But it was for whatever reason, that's what I would listen to.
Well,
that's good.
Best thing about what you taught us, and I still remember it, Jackson, that's why I'm thrilled to be able to do this with you. The best thing you taught us is how to think. You actually honed what they had obviously taught us in law school, but in a whole different way. And when I say conversational, many years ago in New York, and as you know, Jackson, I just do domestic work, domestic relations work. I was doing an appeal, and this very, very interesting scholarly member of the bar who wrote most of the pamphlets for the New York practice. And he walked into my office one day to rent a room, and he says, "You know, I'm old." I says, "Well, someday I'm going to be old, and I hope nobody will rent me." I didn't realize who he was because I was writing in a brief, and I literally was using his book. And he says, "That's my book." I says, "Great." So then he read my brief after it was done. He said, "This will never win." I go, "Okay." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you're not talking to them. You're too structured." And ever since then, I've had a fair success in appellate work. But the way I do it and the way I even argue is to do what you always say, Jackson, and that is be conversational, get the facts, give the judge a reason why in the first 5 seconds to say, "You're right." You know, because then they don't really care. They're not going to sit there and wonder about your digesting of a legal precedent. They really want you to kind of say it the way it is and tell them why you have a reason to be successful. And that is a Jackson Mumey truism, and I tell you right now, I've enjoyed it. I also remember when I took the not the exam, but when I took the studying course, I didn't write as much as you wanted me to for the practice ones. In those days, you're supposed to send you something. And remember, there was no email. There was, you know.
No, it was all fax, brother, or by the U.S. Postal Service.
I just remember calling you, go, "Jackson,
carrier pigeon.
I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, Jackson. I know you want me to do it. It's just not going to happen." But I did do all those little questions, and I did focus on what you had predicted and your ability. And I remember you talking about it. Even it's funny. I haven't thought about this for so many years. I still remember you saying they haven't tested this. They generally test that. And you had it all down. And I said to Alex, I said, "Alex, you really want to meet Jackson because he understands the nature of the game." And apparently you still do. You haven't lost your touch at all.
Apparently so. Alex, did your dad give you a lot of advice about how to prepare for the exam and get ready and take the steps you needed to? Or?
He pretty much said, "Trust Jackson." He would listen to whatever he said.
I would listen to some.
I wish more parents would say that.
Yeah, whatever Jackson says. I mean, my dad is not gonna, you know, he doesn't give advice about things that he doesn't know about, and so, you know, why should we? We're not gonna. He's not gonna pretend to be an expert, or nor should, you know, other law students that just took the exam or their friends of friends or professors. It's a different game. It's not like law school. It's not writing. It's not any kind of law school test.
But I'll tell you one thing we did do, Jackson, which was really helpful. I used to listen to the questions. We go over the questions. I think that was a book you had, and I'd say, "Okay, let's figure out why we got it right."
Yeah.
And I always said, you
Yeah.
got to make your decision, because it's always going to be 2 and 2. You got to make your decision, which way you're going. You vote for or you're voting against. I said, then they're out to screw you. They want to make it seem like everything is right, but of course there's always one that's maybe a nudge more. And then we listen to your explanation of what was right and what was wrong and how it got. And I used to enjoy listening to it every so often, because he was doing it at home with us. And every so often I'd say, you know, I'll listen. And I would go over it, and I'd take my stab at it, because it was fun to listen to you. It was.
Yeah, we did that a lot.
Fun times around the bar exam.
Bar exam with Jackson. How much more can it be?
You know, in my family, it's way fun.
There you go. Show. You can take it to the movies. I mean, it's really that much fun. But what the other thing that people should realize is, especially here in the state of Florida, they are not looking for out-of-state lawyers to come on down here. This is not one of the great hopes of the Florida bar, that more people will be able to come here. And I think it's one of the few states that's no reciprocal relationships with any other state.
Yeah, they don't.
And I was admitted in New York since 1967 or 68, admitted in Connecticut for many, many years as well. And then I come down here, and they put every road, even after I passed, every roadblock that they could find. And I'm an AV-rated lawyer, never had a grievance, never had a problem, and they still put more roadblocks in my way. And ultimately, the day that I was told, okay, you can, you know, you're going to be an attorney, which was about a year or so after the test, and I had to have my son, I hired a national private detective agency to do a dossier on me. Because I was told, you can be an axe murderer here, but as long as you tell them you were an axe murderer, they won't mind it. But if you don't tell them you're an axe murderer, well, I did. I hired a big-time investigator.
I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, and because what happened was, I went down to the New York courthouse to see, you know, what I had there, but because my name was associated with so many complaints and defenses and corporations, you name it, I couldn't find it all. So I said, all right, you know what, I'll hire somebody. So when it all got done, after all the roadblocks in the world, I even had to have an attorney who specialized in this help me. And he calls me up and he says, you know, guess what? Bar is apologizing to you. I said, what? They said they never should have done this to you. I said, okay. What does that mean? He says, well, they want you to know that any judge you want in the state, they'll be happy to make the arrangements to have you sworn in. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, what is it you have to do to become an attorney after you pass the bar, a la Jackson? He says, well, you got to sign an oath of office. I said, does it have to be with the judge? He says, no. I said, send it to me. So they do. They send me the oath of office, and I walked into a Mailboxes or Us store. I said, is there any notary here? I said, yeah. Make me a lawyer. Here's your $2.50. Make And that was it. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. I just wouldn't.
Okay, folks. I told you at the start. Okay. So now you're getting a little taste of Herman. This is vintage Herman. Alex, I don't know how you do it, man.
I don't know. A lot of people always ask me.
Yeah. What's it like working with your dad? That's got to be a lot of fun.
It is fun. I also do other things that he doesn't do, but it has been very interesting to see him in trial and learn from him and second seat him on a few cases and write briefs for him.
Alex is not as, shall we say, demonstrable as I am, but the reason why he took the exam now, essentially, is because he just got his master's in, you'll tell exactly what it is, Alex, but at John Marshall in Chicago. And after he finished, and he also won, believe it or not, the Dish Network Prize for intellectual property in 2014. So he's involved in e-discovery stuff, and really unbelievable. Yeah. I don't know exactly.
I mean, it was pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious, Alex, that you're a smart guy. When you were studying, when you were working with me, it was like, it's not like you don't know what you're doing. So that's kind of an important thing, I think. So it's cool. Well, Alex, the experience is a little more recent for you, obviously, than your dad. But advice would you give bar takers right now, as they're preparing and starting to think about the test, let's say maybe for next year? What things jump into your mind that would be helpful to somebody just starting out?
The things that jump into my mind, I would have to say, is you can't. It's a marathon, and it's not a race, and you can't burn yourself out too quickly. You want to, and I know you were you were yelling at me for having that mentality sometimes, but you can't do too much in one day. You're not going to learn everything in one day. It's impossible. There's too many subjects. There's too many intricacies to the subject. And you can't worry about starting to memorize everything. It's more of a conceptual game. And I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, I believe what you would always tell me is that they don't expect you to be perfect. No one's perfect. And that
right.
And to have that mentality of being that you have to know perfectly the exact wording of every black letter law element is not reasonable. It's just not there. And you're better off spending your time understanding the subject, understanding the elements to whatever tort or property law, but you can't get yourself crazy, because then you're going to freak out in the middle of the test if you don't remember everything. And you're better off just have a foundational understanding of what the bar is looking for. And being able, and then especially,
I think that's great advice.
Facts.
And I'll tell you one other thing, and I know that Alex had it also. There's the aha Jackson moment. When there's the question that you predicted, oh my God, it's right there.
Yeah, when I took the exam, there was a family law last test actually. I'm sure I'm sure everyone will be surprised if there's a family law question on this one, but when I saw that, because you mentioned that there's a high probability that there's going to be one there, and I agreed with you because I looked at the previous exam and I saw there hasn't been one in a while, and it was there, and so when I saw it, I was very comfortable, and I was just I was ready to rock and roll as soon as I saw it. And they don't really change the facts all too much. It's usually the same principles: outlawing, equitable distribution, deciding if a pension is all that. So. That was, it's very good, and there was always, you're never going to know exactly what's on the test. There was a constitutional law question on that one that I think a lot of people really didn't.
Right, that was strange. Yeah, that was a very strange question.
It was strange, but you gave us, tests that were like that. You gave us a few federal constitutional law questions to look at, just in case. And I think a lot of other exams programs don't even really think about it. They just give you the statistics and say, we think this is this, and there's no way this is ever going to be on the exam. But if it's, and it was there, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I edged out people, because I was ready to. I didn't. There's no way I understood everything, because that, like you said, not really there all that often. But I had a foundational understanding of what federal common law questions they were going to look for and what I could write about, and I applied the facts to the case, and that's how I think I got through it.
Jackson?
Right.
I've obviously sent several lawyers to you who wanted to move to Florida over the years.
Yeah.
And what is the biggest problem that they face, in your opinion, when they try to do this?
Yeah, it's it's a good question. The biggest problem for most of them is time management. They don't start early enough, and they don't give themselves enough time because they've already passed a bar typically, and so they're pretty confident in their abilities, and then they get stuck because the exam, as you both pointed out, is very idiosyncratic, and it's a hard process, and so suddenly they're trapped. They're in the exam and they realize, wow, I just didn't prepare adequately enough for that, and then they're in trouble. So starting early, following the steps, just doing the basic work, you should be able to pass the exam. But it's oftentimes one of overconfidence and under preparation, I think.
And I also think it's a very interesting time for the bar exam. There's a lot of lawyers out there now, and I think a lot of just going to bar meetings now that I'm a lawyer and hearing what everyone's thoughts are on it. It's going to keep changing and evolving, and I think being able to write, I think, is going to be more and more important. The way that you write, the way that you teach to write, and not just to lay out a bunch of rule statements and hope that works. And I think that to me is where everything's going to be leading to with the bar exam more.
Well, Alex, let me ask this, because you came out of law school, you knew about your dad's experience with me, but we're not on the law school campus, and so most of your classmates and colleagues were taking what I call the big box reviews. Yeah. What's your sense of that? I mean, there's a lot of pressure in law school to take those courses.
There is a lot of pressure. It really, and you have to, and I think the big thing is that I actually have started telling people about celebration as an alternative. I think a lot of people don't see alternatives. They don't really do their own research. They don't Google bar reviews. And there's, like you said, they're entrenched in the campuses. They are the big box guys. And I think when I tell people to look at celebration, I say it's personal. It's not, you're just not a number to Jackson. You're not a number. You're an actual person, and you actually he's able to direct you and tell you where you need to be doing work. And so that's the message I tell people, especially a lot of law students, because I'm still friendly with a bunch of people that don't get caught up in the advertisements and the frenzy of the big box guys, and do your homework. There's a lot of bar reviews out there, and I say give Jackson a call. Give him a call. He'll tell you what the real stuff is, and I mean, the big box game, they play the statistics, right? They know they're going to get almost a good majority of the bar takers on their exam, so they don't really need to worry about dealing with like the changes in the test or give you the personal touch. It's not necessary to them. They play the odds, and they know that they'll get a majority of people to pass, because if of like 75-80% of the people are taking the test with them, then they're going to get the numbers that they need to advertise with. And so it's like it's a fallacy to really think that.
What's really interesting on that level, Jackson, to be serious for a minute, is his brother did go the big box route. At the University of Miami. It was just peer group pressure. I mean, PGPs all the way through. I mean, he couldn't. And I said to him, you got to give Jackson a call. And I think he did once call you, but no, they must have such advertising and such pressure on those kids. And when he saw Alex studying for the exam, and he saw the way you were doing it in the writing style, he came right along. He said, this is far better. I mean, everybody's writing. What is it? They have that little anagram, whatever the word is that they. Iraq. And I said, you're going to wind up in Iraq if you go with the Iraq. I said, this doesn't work. You really don't want Iraq. I mean, you want to be in Florida. And everybody's doing the Iraq, and it's, what do you do? Just trying to point and pin and stuff like that. But it doesn't work. If you really want to get by, you have to. I did exactly what you told me to do, and I still remember it. And I know several of my friends and colleagues who have come to you over the years. I was very proud to say that every single one of them, would be very, very happy to suggest your course. I mean, that's why I said to Alex, I said, Alex, go this route, because Alex thinks outside of the box in general. He's creative. He's far more intellectual than most of us, and he challenges things, and he wants to know what's going on. Why? And he thinks we're all going to be replaced by Watson anyway.
Well, you may be right. You may be right. It's fun talking to the two of you. I know as a parent of a bar taker, and I'm actually going to be talking to Megan in one of these future hangouts, my daughter, just to get her perspective. It's her chance to fire back after many years and say,
I'd like to see that
Dan,
one.
Yeah, Dan, you're such a pain. But I know that the pressure as a parent of watching your kid take the bar is enormous. But I imagine for you, Alex, as the person taking it, more recently, having your dad there and your brother and everybody else is like, oh my gosh, Did you feel that pressure?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You definitely, especially in that kind of situation, you feel the pressure. but everyone's very supportive. I'm lucky to be in a supportive.
Great party the night we got the letter. Not until we got the letter.
Very supportive, and and then it also comes back to you, Jackson. It really does. It really just being able to talk to you about those kind of issues and feelings, and you really understood what I was going through, and that's when I always come back to, the individual attention with
Jackson, I have to tell you, Alex expressed that thought to me more than once, how you were you had almost like a capacity of a shrink, and I just kept telling him it's the Helsinki factor. That's I could almost
yeah, he did say that a lot. He really said that.
Fall in love with your captor.
I think it's the Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. Okay. Right. Fine.
Thank you for getting it right.
Yeah.
Stockholm.
Oh, Lord.
Right. You think Helsinki, Stockholm.
Yeah, I know. Patty Hearst. I know.
Yeah, right. To this day, I can hear you in my mind. I know it's a great tribute to you, and it's a great tribute to all the people that you have helped all these years. Yeah. A very special way. And I know that you'd love to be helping so many other people, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to have known you over these years.
Well, thanks. Well, for both of you, Herman, for you and for Alex both, I'm just so delighted to be able to share your successes with a broader audience. You're both very, very kind. It's really fun to have bright people, and you two are super bright, obviously, but people who are willing to be teachable and to open themselves up and to try and put themselves out there. And I think that your experiences go a long way to encouraging other people. Certainly, Herman, your experience with licensed attorneys who are coming in after many years, and Alex, your experience as a out of law school student, you kind of represent both ends of the spectrum.
Oh,
and it's wonderful to have you be with us and share that experience. I'm so grateful to both of you for being with me today and sharing these ideas. I just wish you guys great success. I know that you'll have it because that's just everything you do is successful. But it's really so much fun. So much fun to talk to both of you again.
Stay in touch.
And yeah, and thank you so much, and just great. And you guys have a wonderful week, knowing that you don't have to take the bar exam tomorrow. And,
I wish everyone luck on that. I really, just think that's LA. Just go in.
Maybe we should go up and
absolutely.
Laugh at them all.
No, I don't think so. No, that would not.
No, you guys are too nice to do. You're too nice to do that. Well, listen.
No one wants to go to the detention convention, right? That's
there you go. That's it. So, hey, listen. Thanks very much.
Help people to get to their rooms early, also.
Okay, get to your rooms early. You heard it from Herman. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye,